Hi guys, this will just be a pretty quick little video about sights. I've been using a Spot Hogg FastEddie for a while. I really like the Spot Hogg sights. Bulletproof. You could probably drive over it with your car and there would be nothing wrong with the thing afterwards. The one thing though that I did find when I started doing a bit more target orientated archery is that the FastEddie was lacking that micro adjustability that you usually look for in a target sight. So I didn't really want to stray away from the Spot Hogg too much, and the natural progression of that was I ended up with a Spot Hogg Hogg Father. So pretty much the same thing, except for the HoggFather has that micro adjustability that I was after. The one thing that has been a little disappointing to me though is that I've not been as accurate with the HoggFather as what I was with the FastEddie. So I was definitely shooting better scores with a FastEddie. Been looking at them, trying to figure out what the main difference was as far as that's concerned, and for me I think it's the scope housing. So as you can see with the HoggFather, the scope housing, I put the sunshade on this one, but there's not a lot of fiber optic, which means the pin to me is not quite as bright as the pin on the FastEddie, which if you compare the two, you'll notice that the FastEddie has a lot more wraps than the HoggFather. The other thing is, this particular HoggFather is not the brand new one, which means the housing doesn't have the optional stepped out sight rings that the FastEddie does. So as you can see on this one, that yellow and pink ring is quite large. They screw onto the sight, so you can have a standard one, you can have one with 2, one with 3, so on and so forth. You get some as well that actually make the inside smaller, which might be a good idea for target as well, because I noticed that a lot of target shooters shoot a much smaller scope. Now the sight, the scope housings bar on both of them is exactly the same. So what I'm going to be doing as an experiment is take the scope housing off of the FastEddie, put it onto the HoggFather, shoot some scores and see if that makes a difference. So the first thing I guess I need to do is take the scope housing off of one of them, but to try and get it close to where this one's pin is so that I don't have to completely resight my bow in, what I'm going to try is grabbing a ruler and measuring so from that bolt the pin is 42 millimeters away. So hopefully this works. I guess we'll find out. Now one of the things that I really like about the Spot Hoggs as well is that not only is the sight incredibly robust, it is a little bit heavy, but if you're okay with that then you're not going to be disappointed. It's obviously got micro adjust on the windage left and right with the locking button. It's got the wheel much like a normal target sight where you can remember which number is what distance. You can also put a sight tape on it. The sight tape pointer is micro adjustable, and the wheel is locked. Unless you unlock this, the wheel turns for quick adjustment, then you lock that back in, and then you've got clicks for micro adjust. So it's pretty much the same as any other target sight as far as the adjustability of the sight itself is concerned. You've also got second and third axis adjustment built into the sight. So up here, this piece that holds the block to the adjustment bar can swivel that way and that way. So you've got your second axis adjustment there. And then at the front here, this little block here is your third axis adjustment as well. So that'll move the scope that way or that way for those downhill shots. So take the scope off, you just loosen up this piece here and it slides out. There's your scope housing and the sight on its own. Just get that out of the way for a second. So on the FastEddie, this being the FastEddie XL because of the dovetail, double pointer for the double pin that's in there. So the idea being that the top pin of the pointer tells you what the top pin in the scope's distance is set for, and the bottom pointer, the bottom pin in the scope housing. You can tell though that it is incredibly similar in design to the HoggFather, just missing, you know, the micro adjustability. The second and third axis adjustability is still exactly the same. I think it's actually the exact same block apart from the micro adjust being missing. So we'll take that one off. So you can see they are very, very similar in their design. I just wanted to show you the scopes again for a second. So this one has a sunshade attached to it. The lens, if you're going to run a lens, sandwiches between the sunshade and the scope housing in there, which means that the pin is between you and the lens. On the double pin housing that came off of the FastEddie, the lens sandwiches between this ring and the scope housing, which means the lens is between you and the pin, so that's a little bit different. I don't think it makes a difference to the way the pin looks. Personally, I haven't really noticed, but I guess it might be a personal preference thing. And then of course the other thing is the scope rings. So as you can see with this triple ring, the idea I think is to make the scope ring fit within your peep sight regardless of lighting conditions, because as you know, in different lighting conditions you're going to see more or less through your peep sight, which is why I think this particular housing might be what was getting me to shoot slightly more accurately, but I guess we'll find out. So now I've got to put that housing on the HoggFather sight. Again, it just slides in easily enough. I'll just cinch it up a little bit at this stage. Not super tight because I need to measure to the pin. Try and make sure I get it in a similar spot. So looking at that, it's pretty close. I mean, I am definitely going to have to go and shoot to make sure that it's all perfectly correct. But the idea is there. So the next thing I guess I'm going to have to do is do some shooting and make sure that the sight is all set up properly. Alright, so as you saw before, got the FastEddie scope housing on the HoggFather side on the bow. I need to fine tune the windage on it. What I like to do is set the windage block in the middle and then adjust the scope on the bar until I get that pretty close. That way when I do have to micro adjust my windage depending on the wind conditions, I can always get back to zero easily enough. As you can see here, what I've done is I've taken the DIY bag target from Archery Supplies and I've drawn a texture line down it instead of hanging a string as you would. Now the other side's still got a target on it, and that's the beauty of this kind of target as well. You can sort of use it for a few different things. Because it's so cheap, if you draw on it, it's not a big deal. That's enough talking, let's start shooting. Alright, so I'm about 2 meters away from the target at the moment, just to see where the arrows are going as a starting point. What I'll probably do is shoot a few, and if it's pretty close, step back a bit, shoot a few, and if it's out either left or right, adjust. When you're doing adjustments with your sight on your bow for windage, you always want to follow the arrow with your sight. The reason for that though is if this hand is my sight and this hand is my bow and the arrow is hitting to the left, I want my arrow to move to the right, which means that by moving my sight to the left to where the arrow is, once I bring my sight back to center, my bow, and this is very exaggerated, has moved to the right, which means my arrow on the target should also move with the bow, because your bow determines where your arrow is going to go. You just compensate for where it's going with the sight, if that makes sense. If not, ask questions in the comments. So once again, I'm shooting, I'm hitting left. I move my sight to the left to match the arrow, and then when I then put my sight in the middle of the target again, my arrow, which was going slightly left, should then move with the bow to shoot back to the middle again. First impressions are pretty good. Split the line, as you can see. I'll just shoot another one to double check, and then if that one does the same thing, I'll move back. Again, dead center in the line. That ruler method of putting the scope housing back on seems to have worked. It was a bit of a gamble. Alright, so now I'm going to move back to about 10 meters and have another go. Again, I like to do this in small increments initially on first setup, just so that I don't overshoot the target to the left or to the right, because just for safety's sake, not really sure how accurately the sight has been put onto the boat. So here I am at the 10-meter mark. We'll have another crack. I can only shoot 20 meters in my yard, which means I can only get it so good. We'll be going to the range tomorrow, and the idea there being hopefully do a proper modified French tune. I'll do a video on how that all works as well. So yeah, let's see where this one goes. So to me it looks like it's pretty much touching the line. I'm going to shoot another one just to be sure. I pulled that one. So it's very important that when you do this sort of thing, you make sure that you only pay attention to the shots that are good. If you're having a bad day or a bad release like that one was, just ignore it and try again, because any bad shots or bad form that you have when you're tuning means that you're going to be tuning your bow to compensate for that instead of tuning your bow to be properly in tune. So like I said, try to make each one a good shot, and if it's not, disregard it and try again. That was pretty close to my phone. Felt like a good shot though. Let's go have a look. Alright, so from 10 meters away, dead center in the string, slightly left, and that was the bad shot. So I'm going to shoot those three again from the same distance and just see what happens. So I'm going to get a sticker made up for my boat that just, all it says is, just do good shots. Didn't feel like a bad shot. I think it's slightly right of that line. May have been canting the bow a little bit. Again, slightly to the right, but I think it's just me. So that shot felt a lot better, and I reckon it's actually cut the line again. Alright, so clearly not.
all three in a nice line here, away from the screen, the black line. So to me that means a couple of clicks of adjustment.
Right, so they were all three pretty much vertically in line with each other, but they were slightly to the right, which means, well, my sight block's not actually in the center anyway, so I'm going to use the micro adjust, put that in the center, which is where it is now, and let's see where they go. I think that's slightly to the left of the line. Now remember, this isn't how to tune your bow or how to French tune or anything like that. This is just me making sure that I'm shooting well enough that I've got a good start when I get to the range tomorrow and I don't have to start completely from scratch. Alright, let's go have a look.
Alright, so those two are touching the right side of the line. This one's on the left. All three shots felt like a good release. I'm happy to step back a bit from there.
Alright, so two of the arrows were touching the line slightly to the right, about halfway into the line, and the last arrow was slightly to the left of the line, so a pretty even spread. I'm happy now to move back to 20 meters and see how we're doing. Alright, so I'm expecting that I'm going to have to make a bit of an adjustment here. Let's just shoot and find out. Sorry about the barking dog. That felt like a pretty good shot. It looks good from over here, but at these sorts of distances it's best to shoot a group.
one more arrow and we'll have a look. That was a bad shot, so I'll do another one. Bad release rather. Don't want this one to feel left out. That was terrible. Let's go see. Alright, so they're all to the right of the line. That was a bad shot. That was a bad release. So I need to move the sight slightly that way, because they're all that way of the line. So it's only tiny adjustment, and it'll make a big difference down that end. Now remember, I'm not using the micro adjust to do this because I want to make sure the whole thing is centered before I start moving the micro adjust around. Right, so this is a bit tricky. So I moved that less than a millimeter, I think. Let's shoot it and see how we go. So it's looking pretty good from here. I'm going to shoot 4 arrows and then go and have a look down there. Looks like a pretty even spread so far. Don't know what happened there. The arrow went way right. Again to the right. Maybe a bit of an inconsistent anchor point, maybe. If you notice any flaws, let me know down in the comments.
That one was a pretty good release. What I felt different that time is relaxing this hand. It's kind of a tricky thing because you want to relax your release hand so it's not affecting your shot, but you don't want to relax it so much that your release aid slips out of your hand. Let's go have a look.
Alright, so if we take away the two bad shots, on the line, slightly left, slightly left, slightly right. So for the purposes of what I wanted to achieve today, I'd probably call that good enough.
Alright, so I think that the spread left to right at the moment for what I'm trying to do here today is good enough. I'm just going to shoot at the dot in the middle of the bail now, just to check and make sure that I'm close enough to having the 20 lined up correctly, and then I'll call it a day. So I'm at 18 meters, and that hit high, but then I realized I hadn't actually set the pin. That's a little better. A little bit high still. Could have been me. Fairly consistent to that second arrow I shot. Shoot this one, if it goes in the same spot, then I'll make an adjustment. So that to me looks like a pretty tight group. It's high and right, which means I need to move my sight up and right a bit as well. I always like to do these one at a time, so micro adjust the windage 5 clicks to the right. Let's see where this goes.
has brought it over a bit. Pretty tight group, still needs a bit of adjustment. So not bad from 18 meters. That was the first shot with the sight at the wrong setting. The 5 clicks of windage adjustment brought the arrows over a bit. I think another 5 clicks will bring them to about there. And I've got to bring them down by moving the sight up. Alright, so move the sight to the right, another 5 clicks, and up to follow the arrow a little bit to try and bring the arrow down a smidge in the target as well. So let's have another crack and see what happens. So it looks like the windage is pretty much spot on now. I let go of that one a little low. We'll just do that again. Canting the bow, so the arrow went back over to the right a bit. Remember, just do good shots. Just do good shots. So that one's in the dot. Just do good shots. But arrows hitting arrows then. Steve Hahn from Archery Supply shoots groups and groups and groups, busts knocks and loves it. Every time I do it, I cringe because I think about how much money I'm potentially going to have to spend. Alright, I'm happy with that. Let's go have a look. Alright, so again, get rid of the two that I didn't think were very good. That was the last arrow that I shot. I remember 10 dead in the bullseye. Now that could just be me subconsciously compensating for where these ones were hitting. Like I said, I am going to be doing tuning at the club tomorrow, so probably be happy with that for now. Right, so pretty happy with the windage adjustment there. Pretty happy with the elevation as well. For now, fine tuning at the club tomorrow. What I'm already noticing is that my theory is working. That scope housing has my grips much tighter than what they were with a standard scope housing that came on the HoggFather. Now I don't know, it could just be a mental thing with myself that I've grown accustomed to using that triple ring. Not sure. I think the brighter pin helps me as well. I know a lot of target shooters don't like using pins. They use little stickers on the scope glass. I've been an archer for about 7 years, and before starting the target stuff, I was pretty much only hunting and shooting 3Ds, using 5-pin sights and things like that. So I guess it's just what you get used to, and I suppose if I decided to put a dot on my scope instead of using a pin, it'd take a little bit of adjusting, but over time I'd probably get used to that as well. So we'll call this video done there. I do hopefully plan on doing a couple of head-to-heads today as well. If I do, I'll try and film them, and I'll upload that later on.